My family was in the entertainment industry, so my grandfather created the Honeymooners. My siblings were on Little House on the Prairie. So I think probably there's many people that could be in this industry. It just made me feel like it was normal.
Did you grow up with Darlene Connor? For millions of viewers, Sara Gilbert was their childhood, the biting wit and sardonic laughter of the Connor daughter in Roseanne. But few could have imagined that she would become the very person who helped bring the legendary sitcom crashing down at its peak, a decision that shook Hollywood to its core and turned her from a beloved star into the center of an endless controversy. Yet that was only the surface. Sara Gilbert's life has been filled with shocks, fierce clashes with Roseanne Barr, the unspoken truth about her sexuality, broken marriages, devastating family losses, and the heartbreaking decision to cut ties with her own father during his personal crisis. She once dreamed of having her name on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, like her sister Melissa Gilbert, but instead, much of the public came to see her as a traitor. So, did Sara Gilbert truly destroy Roseanne, or was she merely a victim in a power game she could never control? This is not just the story of a once bright career, but of a journey marked by sacrifices, pain, and some of the most bitter choices of a lifetime. Join us as we uncover the full truth behind Sara Gilbert's turbulent life. Actress Sara Gilbert, born Sarah Rebecca Abeles on January 29, 1975, in Santa Monica, California, came from a family deeply rooted in show business. She was the third generation to carry that legacy. Her grandfather, Harry Crane, was the legendary screenwriter of The Honeymooners. Her grandmother, Julia Crane, once crowned Miss Brooklyn, went on to become a dancer. Her mother, Barbara Crane, worked as both a producer and a talent manager in Hollywood. Sara also had two half-siblings from her mother's previous marriage, Melissa and Jonathan Gilbert, both well-known child stars from Little House on the Prairie. Watching them receive gifts, attention, and the glow of fame, young Sara felt such envy that she made a private vow, "I'm going to be an actress too." No one pushed her. It was the natural choice of a little girl determined not to live in the shadow of her family. But her childhood bore wounds that never fully healed. Before she was even a year old, her stepfather, Paul Gilbert, the man whose surname she would carry all her life, died suddenly from a brain hemorrhage. Later, as an adult, her relationship with her biological father, Harold Abeles, became just as turbulent. During one of his lowest crises, Sara had no choice but to cut off contact. One loss came too soon, the other too late, together leaving in her a quiet emptiness that fueled her lifelong longing for a safe family of her own making. Hollywood entered Sara's life through a fateful moment. At 6 years old, she accompanied her sister Melissa to her star ceremony on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Standing among the crowd, watching hundreds of eyes fix on her sister, Sara knew this was exactly what she craved. That same year, she made her first television appearance in a Kool-Aid commercial. From ads, she moved on to a small role in Calamity Jane, 1984, before landing the role of Darlene Connor in Roseanne, the turning point that made Sara Gilbert a household name. Yet alongside the Hollywood spotlight, Sara carved out another path. While many child stars traded away their youth for fame, she was determined to pursue education. Even as she filmed Roseanne, she studied diligently at Yale University, one of the most prestigious schools in the world. In 1997, she graduated with honors, majoring in art and photography, a rare achievement that stood as proof of her ability to balance passion with intellect. Before becoming a television star, Sara Gilbert was just a little girl who appeared in a handful of commercials, the most memorable being the 1981 Kool-Aid campaign. Her early TV and film roles made little impact, but they gave her valuable confidence in front of the camera. At that time, no one could have predicted that this shy child would one day become one of the defining faces of American television. The turning point came in 1988, when 13-year-old Sara landed the role of Darlene Connor in Roseanne. From there, something remarkable unfolded behind the scenes. The character of Darlene had originally been written quite differently, but Sara's real-life personality, sharp, witty, and at times sarcastic, inspired the writers to reshape the script, transforming Darlene into a fictional version of Sara herself. That's why Darlene stood apart from the one-dimensional teenage archetypes of the era. Edgy yet authentic, so real that audiences felt they were seeing their own reflections on screen. The longer she stayed with Roseanne, the more Sara proved she was no lucky face. At just 17, while the show was at its peak, she unexpectedly wrote the script for an episode titled, "Don't Make Me Over." For a teenage actor to be trusted with writing an episode of a hit sitcom was nearly unheard of, and that episode aired officially, marking a milestone that showcased Sara's genuine creative ability behind the camera. Thanks to Darlene, Sara won 3 consecutive Young Artist Awards, 1991, 1993, and earned 2 Emmy nominations, 1993, 1994. But what truly set her apart wasn't the trophies. It was the way she turned her own adolescence into a story an entire generation of viewers could relate to. Success came early, but with it came enormous pressure. Could Sara Gilbert sustain that glow? Or would she eventually fade away like so many other child stars? The answer lies in the next chapter, when her career entered an entirely different phase, one filled with trials and shocks waiting just around the corner. After the phenomenal success of Roseanne, Sara Gilbert refused to be boxed into the image of a teen sitcom star. She ventured into film, appearing in Poison Ivy, 1992, alongside Drew Barrymore, and later reunited with Barrymore in Riding in Cars with Boys, 2001. In 1998, Sara even directed a short film, Persona non grata, signaling her ambition to work behind the camera rather than being confined solely to acting. Still, television remained the place where she sustained her influence. From 2004 to 2007, Sara appeared in ER, the most successful medical series in TV history, as the sharp and witty Dr. Jane Figler. But it was her role as Leslie Winkle in The Big Bang Theory, 2007-2010, that truly brought her back into the spotlight. Originally cast as a guest star, Sara's sarcastic edge and strong personality as Leslie resonated with audiences so much that producers promoted her to a recurring character. On screen, Leslie became the love interest of Leonard Hofstadter, played by Johnny Galecki, Sara's former Roseanne co-star. Yet as the show expanded its female leads with Penny, Amy, and Bernadette, Leslie was gradually written out. Few people know that in an interview, Sara candidly admitted the writers simply didn't know what else to do with Leslie Winkle, despite the character's continued popularity with fans. This highlighted a harsh Hollywood reality. Even an actress who had once been a major star like Sara Gilbert could be sidelined because of market-driven decisions. As a result, Leslie Winkle remained a brief but memorable mark, one that showcased Sara's talent while exposing the unfairness she faced in the industry. Alongside her efforts, Sara also tasted failure. Her sitcom Twins, 2005, where she played a lead role, was canceled after just 1 season. That setback made her realize she couldn't rely solely on short-term acting gigs. She needed something bigger, a personal imprint on the industry. That decision led to a turning point. In 2010, Sara Gilbert co-created and co-hosted The Talk. Few knew the original idea came from her, a talk show designed to compete directly with The View, but instead of loud gossip, it focused on everyday topics: family, society, culture, and politics from a women's perspective. When it first premiered, many expected The Talk to flop for being too similar to The View. But Sara carved out something different. She built the show around the stories of mothers, intimate, authentic, and relatable for middle-aged female viewers. This direction not only kept the program thriving for nearly a decade, but also won it a Daytime Emmy in 2016, proving that Sara wasn't just a screen presence, but a true content architect. Yet behind the spotlight came a heartbreaking choice. In 2019, Sara Gilbert tearfully left the talk. She explained she had become overwhelmed balancing production of The Conners with being the mother of 3 children, leaving no time for her family. Saying goodbye live on air touched millions, especially women also struggling to juggle career and private life. In that moment, Sara wasn't just a star. She was every mother, with real worries and sacrifices. The 2018 revival of Roseanne began like an earthquake. After more than 2 decades, audiences eagerly welcomed the Connor family back to television, and the premiere episode shattered ratings records. But the joy was short-lived. Just 2 months later, on May 29, 2018, Roseanne Barr posted a tweet that sparked outrage, comparing former Obama advisor Valerie Jarrett to Planet of the Apes. The shock spread at lightning speed. Inside the cast and crew, panic set in. Many feared losing their jobs and the show they had just resurrected. ABC executives convened emergency meetings. Advertisers threatened to pull out. In the midst of this chaos, Sara Gilbert was the first to speak. She released a statement. "Roseanne's comments do not reflect the beliefs of our cast and crew. I am deeply disappointed." It was a decision both brave and dangerous. Brave because she stood up to separate herself and the cast from the scandal, but dangerous because she knew Barr's fury would follow. And it did. Roseanne Barr immediately lashed out, publicly accusing Gilbert of destroying my life with one tweet. Overnight, decades of collegial ties turned into open hostility. ABC was forced to take an unprecedented step: cancel Roseanne immediately, despite its roaring success. Yet in that abrupt ending, Sara Gilbert's decisive move opened another path. The Conners, a spin-off without Roseanne Barr. By taking the blow for the entire cast and crew, Sara not only saved hundreds of jobs, but also kept the legacy of the Connor family alive. What looked like a collapse turned Sara Gilbert into the central figure, both the target of criticism and the one who carried the show forward. And that's why, by 2021, ABC signed a lucrative deal paying $400,000 per episode to Sara and the main cast, cementing her as one of the most powerful faces on American television. Alongside these headline milestones, Sara Gilbert quietly sustained her career with roles and projects that, while less publicized, were crucial in shaping her image. She appeared in Light It Up, 1999, a high school drama alongside Usher and Rosario Dawson, and guest starred in acclaimed series like Law and Order, SVU, Will and Grace, 24, and Private Practice. Though brief, these appearances showcased her versatility, shifting effortlessly between comedy and drama, film and television. Beyond acting, Gilbert increasingly asserted her role behind the camera. In addition to producing The Conners, she served as executive producer on new projects such as Preps of Pittsburgh, a sitcom inspired by the true immigrant story of writer Vijal Patel, and Verbatim, an HBO Max docudrama tackling major social scandals, including the 2019 college admissions case. These ventures prove that she is no longer confined to the label of former child star, but has evolved into a respected content creator with a strong voice in the industry. Turning to Sara Gilbert's personal life, her first love came when she was just 16. On the set of Roseanne, she began dating Johnny Galecki, her co-star who played David Healy, the on-screen boyfriend of Darlene Connor. To audiences, they were the perfect pair, young, charming, and tied to one of the hottest sitcoms on TV. But behind the scenes, Sara was experiencing something entirely different. During Secret Week on The Talk many years later, Gilbert recalled that moment. "I thought he was super cute and I really fell for him. We started dating, he'd come over, we'd kiss, and then I started feeling depressed. At the time, Galecki thought he had done something wrong. He even blamed himself. But eventually, Gilbert found the courage to admit the truth. The issue wasn't him. It was her sexuality. Johnny wasn't angry, nor did he judge her. Instead, he was compassionate, supportive, and became one of the first people to help Sara slowly accept herself. The story didn't end there. In another interview, Gilbert revealed that while still filming Roseanne, she began dating a woman 18 years older than her, a public figure as well. No one in the cast or crew knew, and Johnny Galecki kept the secret for her for years. Sara remembered the paralyzing fear she lived with. If this comes out, will I lose my career? Will I ever be able to play straight roles again? These questions haunted her throughout much of the 1990s. Even after publicly coming out in 2010, Sara admitted that every time she spoke about her sexuality, she still trembled with fear. On The Talk, she once said, "I want to live a genuine life. I have a wonderful life, but sometimes there are difficulties, and that's okay. There may be a part of you that doesn't want to be different or feels scared, and that matters more than anything else." Few people know that. Before sharing this story on air, Sara called Johnny Galecki to ask for his blessing. His reply was simple: "I love you, and I think this is really important. I'm so proud of you. If you want, I'll be there to hold your hand." Sara smiled, but declined. She knew this was a story she needed to tell herself. That moment was not just the farewell to a teenage romance, but the beginning of Sara Gilbert's journey toward her true self. A journey fraught with challenges, but one that laid the foundation for the choices that would define her later life. Having overcome the struggles of adolescence and gradually learned to embrace who she truly was, Sara entered adulthood with a new desire: to build a real home of her own. If the journey to open the door to her truth was already difficult, Sara Gilbert's married life proved to be no less challenging. In 2001, Gilbert entered a serious relationship with Allison Adler, an American television producer and writer known for hit shows like Supergirl, The New Normal, and Chuck. This was not only Gilbert's first long-term relationship with a woman, but also the period when she began building a family. During their 10 years together, they had 2 children, one carried by Gilbert and the other by Adler, both conceived through artificial insemination. Though she had known her sexual orientation since her youth, Sara Gilbert kept it private for more than 15 years. Hollywood was not a safe place for those willing to admit they were different. At that time, very few actors were openly gay and still managed to maintain their careers. Those who dared to step into the light risked public rejection, canceled contracts, and stalled careers. Gilbert understood that all too well. For a long time, she chose silence, keeping her private life strictly separate from her work. Even in her serious relationship with Adler, the two carefully stayed in a safe zone away from prying eyes. Gilbert kept acting, kept appearing on television, as if nothing in her personal life was any different. But by 2010, the truth could no longer be hidden. That year, Gilbert was preparing for a major turning point, launching her own talk show, The Talk, where she would serve not only as host but also as one of the main creative forces. It was a huge opportunity, a platform that could usher her into an entirely new chapter of her career. Yet there was one problem. How could she talk about honesty and other people's lives while hiding the biggest truth about her own? She knew that continuing to hide would not only trap her in fear, but also damage the credibility of her show. At the same time, speaking the truth meant putting her entire career on the line. Questions haunted her. Would Hollywood accept her? Would brands still want to work with her? How would the audience react? In the days leading up to the first taping, Sara Gilbert could hardly sleep. She had decided to come out on air, but her heart was heavy with worry. If the audience turned against her, it might be the last time she appeared on a major show. When the signal light came on, she took a deep breath and said, "I can't hide this anymore. I'm a lesbian and I'm proud of it." The studio fell silent for a few seconds, then erupted in a long round of applause. Gilbert had braced herself for the worst, but no one turned their back on her. Instead, Audiences respected her even more for her honesty. After the broadcast, no contracts were canceled, and the talk became even more successful. What she once thought would end her career ended up elevating it to a new height. However, this turning point also created distance in her relationship with Adler. No one knows the exact reason for their breakup, only that by 2011 they ended things amicably, with no public disputes, no custody battles. They remained on good terms for the sake of their children. But for Gilbert, it marked a significant milestone, her first breakup after daring to live openly as her true self. 3 years later, Gilbert entered a new relationship, this time believing it was the great love of her life. The woman who captured her heart was Linda Perry, former frontwoman of the band Four Non-Blondes, a talented songwriter with a bold, uncompromising spirit. Their romance moved quickly. After just 11 months of engagement, they were married in March 2014. Perry was more than a partner. She brought freedom, creativity, and vibrant energy into Gilbert's world. At the wedding, Perry even composed and performed a special song just for Gilbert, a romantic moment that left everyone in tears. A year later, in 2015, they welcomed their son, Rhodes Emilio Gilbert Perry. It was a milestone, Gilbert's first legal marriage, something she had never had with Adler. For Gilbert, this seemed like the beginning of a new chapter, a happy family, the life she had fought so hard to build. But behind the smiles and seemingly perfect moments, cracks quietly began to form. Perry was an artist with a free-spirited lifestyle, while Gilbert leaned toward stability. The differences that once drew them together gradually became a divide. Disagreements over lifestyle, work, and even parenting revealed that they were no longer looking in the same direction. In December 2019, Gilbert filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. Their 5-year marriage ended quietly. No public disputes, no battles over assets. They agreed to share custody of Rhodes and continued to maintain mutual respect while co-parenting. In an interview, Perry said she always held great respect for Gilbert and viewed their time together as a journey they had shared. Still, no matter how amicably it ended, it remained a marriage once full of promise, yet one that ultimately could not reach a happy conclusion. If love was something Sara Gilbert could choose to begin and end, there was one relationship she could never escape: her bond with her biological father. Her father, Harold Abelies, had once been a successful lawyer, but after divorcing her mother, he struggled to manage his finances. At 18, Sara Gilbert was at the height of her career, earning sums many adults could only dream of. Naturally, she began supporting her father financially. She did it not out of obligation, but out of affection, believing that with her earnings, she could help him overcome his difficulties and rebuild his life. But as time went on, his financial requests grew larger. What started as small acts of support gradually turned into a heavy burden. Gilbert began to feel pressured, exhausted, and above all, helpless. She couldn't tell whether her father truly needed the money or had simply grown accustomed to her support. She had to make a choice: stop. For many, cutting off financial help to a parent would seem unthinkable. But Gilbert had no other option. Continuing would drain not only her finances but also her spirit. She once said all she ever wanted was for her father to simply be a father, not someone dependent on his daughter to survive. Yet even after making that decision, the guilt haunted her for years. She asked herself countless times, was I abandoning him? Could I have helped in another way without hurting myself? In the years that followed, her father's health declined. Despite the fractures in their past, Gilbert could not look away. She became his primary caregiver, once again shouldering the responsibility for the man who had given her life. If before she had felt burdened by financial obligations, this time she no longer questioned whether she was doing the right thing. She knew it was. She could not turn back time to erase what had happened, but at the very least, she was there with her father in his final moments. For many, Sara Gilbert is more than an actress. She is a symbol of change. By coming out at a time when Hollywood still tread cautiously around the LGBTQ+ community, she broke invisible barriers and became a source of strength for thousands who longed to live authentically. More importantly, she proved that a gay actor need not be confined to identity-based roles, but could embody any character and resonate with audiences of all kinds. In doing so, she helped make American television more diverse, relatable, and real. From Roseanne to The Talk to The Conners, Gilbert's presence was never limited to the camera. She was a content creator, shaping the tone and identity of the shows she touched. Under her guidance, The Talk became one of daytime television's leading talk shows, a space where issues of society, gender, and family were discussed with candor and heart. And when Roseanne was abruptly canceled, it was Gilbert who stepped forward to preserve its legacy with The Conners, proving that the success of a show does not rest on one individual, but on the depth of its stories and the power to connect with viewers. Sara Gilbert's legacy lies not in loud proclamations, but in quiet, courageous choices. She leaves her mark as an actress who dared to live authentically, a producer with vision, and a pioneer who cleared a path for the next generation of LGBTQ+ artists. For Gilbert, changing Hollywood never required grand slogans, only the courage of one person willing to walk ahead. After more than 3 decades in acting and countless personal upheavals, Sara Gilbert remains committed to the entertainment industry, but on her own terms. She continues to portray Darlene Connor while also serving as lead producer on The Conners, one of the rare sitcoms that has retained its appeal even without its central character. In 2025, the series announced it would conclude with its 7th season, with the final episode airing on April 23, 2025. Gilbert admitted that saying goodbye was far from easy, as The Conners had become a very deep part of our souls. At the same time, she has expanded her role behind the scenes. Together with producer Tom Werner, Gilbert founded the company Sara plus Tom TV, aiming to develop television projects over which she has direct creative control. From actress and familiar on-screen presence, she has steadily evolved into a producer with real influence, someone shaping the stories themselves, rather than simply performing lines written by others. Though her career continues to grow, Sara Gilbert now places her mental health at the top of her priorities. After years of work pressure and personal turmoil, she has faced periods of depression. Rather than avoiding it, Gilbert sought medical support and embraced lifestyle changes, practicing yoga regularly, spending more time with herself and her children. Following her divorce from Linda Perry, she now lives with her 3 children, Levi Hank, Sawyer Jane, and Rhodes Emilio, striving to create a stable, warm home environment. Financially, Gilbert remains among those with enduring careers. Her net worth is estimated at around $30 million, stemming mainly from acting salaries, producing work, and long-term television contracts. This independence allows her to focus on projects of personal meaning rather than chasing after fleeting fame. As 2025 unfolds and The Conners comes to a close, Sara Gilbert sees it not as an ending, but as the chance to begin a new chapter. From a teen sitcom star to a woman brave enough to live openly, to a producer with vision, she continues to prove that her influence doesn't lie in media noise, but in endurance, and the courageous choices she has made throughout her life's journey. Sara Gilbert's life has never been a path lined with roses. She was never the brightest star in the sky, but she was the one who weathered the most storms and remained standing. From the ambitious young girl on Roseanne, to the rising teen star, to the grown woman facing broken marriages, public controversies, and private battles, Sara Gilbert has tasted both glory and loss. Success never came without a price, and for her, that price was always the quiet sacrifices made off-screen. What sets Sara Gilbert apart is her resilience. When scandals surrounded her, she didn't collapse. When love ended, she held on to her self-belief. When pain knocked at her door, she chose to adapt and carry on. Step by step, she turned fragility into strength, falls into foundations, and her life into proof that living authentically is never easy, but always right. So in the end, what truly defines a person? The peaks we've reached, or the way we rise after each fall? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue this journey with us as we uncover the hidden stories behind Hollywood's glittering lights.